Design for the rest of us, AKA what Willy Wonka can teach us about design. Thanks for that great intro, Aaron. I am Jack McDade. Who here uses Statamic? A couple people heard of it. Awesome. We're not going to talk about that at all, but there's a lot of people, Transistor, Mail Coach, McDonald's, there's a lot of people who use it. If you want to talk about Statamic, come find anyone on the core team here. Everybody but Duncan, he couldn't make it, and we'd happily talk to you about Statamic. Who here wishes they were better at design? Or as Caleb says, who wishes they didn't suck at design? You suck. I made it like 10 minutes ago. And I messed it up. I have an extra slide in there. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to convince you that developers with design skills are a super threat. And in fact, developers with design and business skills are unstoppable. If you can do all three parts of those, you can launch any project on Laravel Cloud. And so we're just going to get into it here today. Earlier this year, I launched a course called Radical Design. It did pretty well, and some of the feedback from that was really good. And so what I wanted to do was try and take 30 minutes of like 7 hours of content and just jam it down your ears as fast as possible. And so actually the best way to do that, my slides are messed up again. I'm sorry. All right, so what I'm going to do is reveal the secret sauce from the course. So since we can't cover everything, the feedback that was most valuable from everybody when I talked to them as I got through the course is the secret sauce. The secret sauce is in 5 parts. First, it's the goal of design. We need to define the goal of design so we know what we're actually shooting at. There's going to be an obstacle. If you decide that you want to actually spend a little bit of time as a developer getting better at design, you're going to run into an obstacle immediately, and we need to cover that before we even get going because we can get past that. Next, I need to free your mind and reveal a secret that designers have. I don't know if it's necessarily like on purpose, but something that maybe you realize designers do that you didn't think they do. Then we're going to talk about the process of design, and then we're going to look at Willy Wonka and see if he agrees with me. Okay? How's that sound? Thank you. The goal of good design. This is my definition. The goal of good design is to create an experience that guides someone willingly with honesty towards a mutually beneficial goal. What I mean here is that if someone has a product, they're searching for a product, they find your website, you've communicated what that product does clearly. They buy it, they're happy with it, you made money, they're happy with the money they spent, transaction completed. That's the goal. That is a good design that got them from learning about your company and or product to the actual finished purchase. That's in direct contrast to the goal of evil design, which is to create an experience that manipulates someone unwillingly and with deception towards a self-serving goal. That's clickbait. That's every Instagram I've ever seen for supplements I probably already have, and for camera gear I definitely don't need. So with that definition in mind, if we can agree that that is a good definition, and you decide, yes, I would like to not suck so much at design and tackle being a little bit more thoughtful. Like Caleb showed, I had to edit a lot of slides. He showed everything I was going to do. No. The biggest obstacle you're going to run into, I'll tell you right now, it's not design software. Because if you can figure out Vim and Docker, I promise you can figure out Sketch and Figma. They are so easy. Everything is clearly labeled. You're literally just drawing boxes, putting text in the box, adding a drop shadow. It's more the deciding what to put on the screen is the thing that drives you crazy, right? This is the obstacle. It's the fear of putting out bad design. If you've been in the industry for like 15, 20 years and you've never really put your name on a design, like, hey, I built this side project all by myself, and you've never put your name on like that whole package, it can be really scary to think, like, well, I'm really experienced. I shouldn't be putting out bad stuff. And I think if we can get over that fear of hypercriticalness, that's going to free you to do almost anything. Has anyone read the book, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday? Like 1.5 people. This is a really good book. I think I only read the first chapter, but it made a really good point. And it's that every single obstacle is a potential way to overcome the obstacle itself. The obstacle is the way. And so I'm looking at this thing, this idea, this concept of being afraid to put your name on design. I'm like, what's the benefit here? How does that help me move forward? And here it is. If you can identify bad design, that means you have good taste, right? People who are bad at design, don't know they're bad at design. They make, they think their designs are heckin' awesome. Like, they make stuff that looks like this, and PowerPoint presentations that look like this, and they put red and blue on top of green. Like, we all can agree this sucks, right? Everybody? Okay. So, if you can tell what good design is, and you know what bad design is, all we need to do is get what's in your head, what you know is good, onto the screen, okay? And I'm gonna tell you how I figured out how to do that and how to teach people how to do that. And the great thing about the web is even if you put out objectively bad design, it's really easy to change. If it's really that bad, just hire someone and have them replace it for you. But if you come back later and you improve your skill set, you can just update it. People look back at old versions of things with nostalgia, right? Like anyone Laravel 4 or earlier, oh, those days were really fun. I mean, they're better now, but that was fun too. All right, moving on. You need to free your mind. There's this thing that designers do that helps them be good designers that most people aren't aware of. It's the secret to designing a website. First, you just draw some boxes, and then you draw the rest of the damn website. That's the end of my talk. I think we're good. No, it's this. Most designers don't design everything in their designs. If you told me to draw something, it would look like I drew it with my left foot. It is terrible. I'm a bad illustrator. I'm not good at animation and motion, really. There's a lot of things I'm not good at. And how do I compensate for that? Just use asset libraries. Does anyone know what an asset library is besides, really, Caleb showed us an asset library for user interface, but for marketing design? Anyone heard of Creative Market or Envato Elements? These sites are full of hundreds of thousands of design elements, from textures and icons and illustrations to templates and Photoshop filters and all sorts of really cool things that can make you look like a super pro designer. And we've all used this stuff it's Canva, but it's pulled apart into little pieces that you can use however you want. And most designers use asset libraries all the time. I don't think I've launched anything in the last 20 years that didn't use something from an asset library. Here, I'll give you an example. Here's a tiger on Envato Elements, right? It's a 3D object. You get to rotate these and then export a transparent PNG. Well, that looks pretty cool. Now I can put it on a cool background and everything looks pretty awesome. So I just slap that on my homepage and that's my website. I've got a few other items on there as well. And it's my headshot, some text, and I think it looks pretty cool. It's about due for a redesign, but that's what designers do. We just keep redesigning stuff. It's the final composition is the thing that matters. If you're worried about not being original because you didn't hand make every single thing on your design, you need to let that go, because all that matters is the final composition. Is that unique? Have you not blatantly ripped off a screenshot from someone else's website? No? Okay, you've done it. Author William Ralph Inge has been quoted as saying, "What is originality? It's just undetected plagiarism." That's what AI is doing. Why can't we do it? But selectively. All right. If you buy into the premise, let me teach you the radical design process. These are the steps that you can follow to teach yourself how to design. You don't need my entire course. If you actually do these 3 steps, it works. Like, I've given a bulleted list to somebody, and they went and updated a design they did, and it looked phenomenal. I'm like, dude, you're better than me. This is awesome, okay? And let me tell you, the first step in the process is not open up your design app. You don't start with a blank slate. You don't start from a position of scarcity, okay? You need to build up abundance. Here are the 3 phases. Number 1, gather. Gathering is something that you can start right now. If you are even remotely interested in becoming a little bit better at design, start taking screenshots of anything and photos of anything that inspires you. If you like one of my slides, take a picture, save it, become a digital hoarder. Save everything. Throw everything into one giant, massive inspiration folder that's so messy. Keep it messy. Find as much inspiration in real life as you can, because the more times and the more elements and things that you can take from the real world, the less you're actually stealing from competition and other things that people have seen before. You're bringing an infusion of fresh ideas from the real world. So keep that folder messy. And here's why. If you're starting on a project and you're like, I need to design something, I saw this book cover, something that's really cool, I could probably do a design kind of based on that. And then you have to go look for it, and then you start finding all these other ideas that you totally forgot about and things that are cool, and you start mashing up and remixing like a DJ, and you start to have all these different ideas combining into something that you wouldn't have made otherwise. Don't over-organize this. Don't create a bunch of subfolders. Just keep a big messy folder on my desktop, your desktop. Let's do a little experiment. So this is something I do every time I encounter a bookshelf. I'm at the library, or if I'm at a bookstore, I will stand in front of the shelf, and I will just look at all the books kind of abstractly and wait for one of them to pop out. Can you do this for 5 seconds? Stare at this screen and pick a book. What do you think? Which one did you pick? Is it this one? Anybody? Raise your hand. 60% of the people? That's pretty good. That book stood out not because it's amazingly designed. It's because in the category of sports, everything's really colorful, in this case, and it's black and white. It's really important that you look at the landscape of where your design is going to live so you can decide how you want to stand out against that. In a different category, this book might blend in like everything else. So it's not necessarily the design itself that made it pop up. It was the contrast to what's around it. You want to do one more? Just for fun? Take a look, give it 5 seconds. What book? Did you pick that one? Raise your hands, everybody? 40%. Okay, there's a lot more choices. Again, I think that looks cool, but I don't say well, now I need to design everything that looks like that. No, I just think that's an interesting exercise that you can do and take a picture of it. Anything that stands out to you like that, if you're at a bus stop and you're looking at an ad or you're watching, my favorite thing is title credits for movies or end credits. Those, that's a totally separate company and a production company that makes those unrelated to the actual movie. And these people work really hard, and there's a lot of really creative things that they're doing. If you design something that looked like the title credit sequence from an A24 indie movie, I don't think anyone's ever gonna notice. But if you want to find inspiration online, my favorite place to do that is One Page Love. It's a curated site by Rob Hope. And there's a lot of really great, creative, original designs. It's not the same stripe or linear knockoff over and over again. There's a lot of really unique stuff on the site. So again, as much real life inspiration as you can, but if you need to go somewhere, try One Page Love, not Dribbble. Dribble's cool. It's a great place to show works in progress, but Dribbble is not really full of designs that have actually been out in the real world and been battle hardened and tried and true. Stuff that's actually working, from companies that are making money, that's a good place to say they must be doing something right. Okay, that's phase 1, gather. You can start right now. Phase 2 is experiment. This is something you can do, I recommend every day. If you can start doing experiments every day, it's like exercise for your design muscles. Each experiment is an opportunity for you to get a little bit better at design. And the best way to do that is to do copy work, okay? Copy work is literally taking something that you've seen, like another website, I really recommend if you're doing web design, take a website, a really simple one that you know, and open up Sketch or Figma and copy it. Like pixel for pixel, top to bottom, start with the nav bar, do it exact. Even take a screenshot of it and like overlay it, like set the opacity to like 50% and copy it all the way to the bottom or until you feel like you run out of time, like 15, 20, 30 minutes a day is all you need. And this is gonna teach you a lot of things that you're not aware of. Like, oh, like why is the font always wider? It's the same height, but it's like wider. Oh, it's character spacing. I shrink that up and okay, that actually does look better. I like that. Oh, the line height is not 1 or 1.5, like 1.37 looks better for some reason. There's like, when it comes to design, I know like developers want to do, like have magic numbers, like it needs to round out to 2 or 4 or 5 and 10, but like in real design stuff, sometimes it's 1 or 3 or 7 is the right number. That extra pixel makes a big difference. So copywork is something that will let you get better and find all those little details. And if you can't do something, like you're not sure how it works, that's an opportunity to either Google for it, watch a YouTube video, or skip it, replace it with something else. Musicians and artists have done this for thousands of years. If you learn a musical instrument, what's the first thing you do? Play a song you didn't write. I'm not asking you to like compose a concerto or a power ballad on the first time you pick up your instrument. Same thing for artists. They draw, you're tracing, you're copying works from other people. This is the process of learning a creative skill. It's not cheating, it's just learning. So if you do one experiment per day, 15 minutes, in 30 days, I promise you, if you look at that first experiment to the last one, it's gonna be a huge difference. You can do this with the website. Another thing I like to do is like just one of the bits of inspiration I found from the real world, like it's often for me book covers or like t-shirt designs. I'll just see if I can recreate that. So I'll like pull a piece up and I'll just make something that's close. Like I don't know what font that is. Like I'll find a similar font and make something similar. It's just layers and building them up and picking them apart. I'll give you an example. I found this book at the bookstore, Kings of Cocaine. I don't know anything about it, but I think the cover looks pretty sweet. It's a cool font, great colors, and so I came home and made the Florida Man Diaries. It's inside the amazing true story of the man who threw 42 inches of live alligator through a fast food drive-through window, which is a true story. It's Florida Man. There's the book based on the movie. The Men That Stare at Goats, or actually the movie's based on the book. Like that looks pretty cool. Actually, that kind of looks like a website to me. It looks like a hero header, and then there's like the content underneath it. So I just made like a quick version that looks sort of like that. I'm not gonna use it for anything, but I'm just gonna go through the process of exercising and like, all right, like that ragged edge. Let me kind of draw out that ragged edge and like figure out how to match those colors so it does that. And now I have this in my back pocket as a little style kit that I've already played around with. I don't know when I'm gonna use it. Maybe someday, maybe never. I'll give you another one. I'll play around, I'll just explore in Envato Elements, and they have all these amazing like product mock-up templates. So if you have an image, like a JPEG, I mean, I'm sure most of you people have probably, there's websites that do this too, but you place your own design on an object and mock it up. This is really great for like sending joke products to your friends. So I found this milk packaging, and I play this game with my wife sometimes, like what would be the weirdest version of this product? And what would be the weirdest kind of milk? Anybody? What's the weirdest kind of milk you can think of? Yak milk, that's pretty good. Yak milk is good. Hippo milk is interesting. I think horse milk is really funny because it's so close to cow, you wouldn't think you would just go one step over and think it's funny. Do anyone want a glass of nice ice cold horse milk? I send this to people and I get laughs. Like designing for my friends is like so much more fun sometimes than designing for the internet because I have a built-in audience. I know what makes my friends laugh. And it's a really easy audience to like just play around with your skills. Here is a copy work that I did just for this talk, wimpdecaf.com. I'm like off caffeine right now. And so I'm looking for like, what's really good decaf? And I found this site, someone tweeted it recently. And I'm like, that's a really simple website, but that looks good. It's just a couple of text layers and like a nice product image shot that's very simple. So I recreated it, Rethink Milk. It's the underdog of milk has sucked for far too long. So milk is redefining milk from the hooves up. I mean, I can't launch that, but it made me laugh and now I got to share it with you guys. So like that was a fun 30 minutes doing that. I also learned about squircles by digging through the site. Has anyone heard of a squircle? Yes, 1, 2, 3, 3. I mean, I've seen the shape, but I didn't know it had a name. It's like, you know when you do border radius and you make a nice rounded shape? If you took that and just kind of went and like sort of blew the edges out just a little bit so it curved, that's a squircle. There's like a CSS library that helps you make squircles, and now I'm like, oh my God, I need to put squircles in everything. I didn't know. I've been doing this for a long time. You're just learning stuff by picking apart other sites. Like, look, this is like 12 layers. Every single person here, if I gave you Sketch in an hour and like that product mock-up, you could make this. It's not that hard. And save everything. Save every single experiment you ever make, because you never know when you might need the source material for another project. But I will give you one pro tip. Label where you get your experiments from. This may or may not have been from personal experience, but I did a copy work on a site that had some really cool typography. Got to the bottom, saved it, put it away. A couple years later, I was digging through, I need to do a redesign. Whoa, this is really cool. Why didn't I launch this? I don't even need to change anything. I'm just gonna like launch it because I like swapped out the content. And then I got an email like 3 weeks later. Hey, you totally like stole our website. Like, oh, this is hypothetical. He said, you totally stole that guy's website. And I was like, oh my God, I know what happened. Obviously we roll it back, redesign it, everything was fine. But from then on, I label, like put the URL of the site I'm doing copy work from in like the top layer of the file, and then everything's fine. All right, that's phase 2, experiment. Phase 3, this is unleash. This is where you take all of the inspiration that you've collected. You have a library of experiments that you've done. You've searched around in Envato Elements or whatever asset library you'd like. There's so many. I've got some links I'll tweet out later for different places if you're interested. It's also all in my design course. But once you've done all that, it's time to combine it and tackle. Okay, I'm not gonna look down. So, this is where you go offline. It's time to do a real project. This is where you need to stop consuming content, get off social media, stop looking for more inspiration, go offline and say, I've got everything I need to take a concept through to completion. Because what happens if, like when you're doing a design concept and you like the idea or your head, like, I think this is gonna be cool. And you get halfway and you're like, I thought this was gonna be cooler. And then you get stuck, and so you start shaving some yaks, and you open up Twitter or Mastodon or Threads or wherever you post these days, and see someone else launch a product, and you're like, oh my God, that looks so good. Why didn't I think of that? My stuff is terrible. Whoa. That's gonna throw you off. You're gonna get derailed like a bad mic might do. And so stay offline for the duration of a design concept. If you spend enough time and you go, this is definitely not going anywhere, it's okay to come out of your writer's cabin, if you will. Okay, so that's how you start this phase. Then you've got a project, right? Maybe it's a personal site or a SaaS you're trying to launch on the side. You need to know that your who, your why, and your what. Your audience, what you're selling, what you want them to do, or why they would care, and what you want them to do on the website. Put that on a sticky note, throw it on your monitor, and then write your content. Content comes before design. Design should take your content and lift it up on a pedestal in a way that highlights it, as opposed to using a template where you have boxes that you wedge your content into. Sometimes that ends up being the same exact layout, that's okay. And sometimes you come up with a really great idea if you look at every paragraph as a unique item that you can style. So all you really need to start is a headline, maybe an intro blurb, a little subheading, a call to action, and a pitch, your story, like the 3 to 5 paragraphs of content or a bulleted list of things that are important to your audience. If you have that, you have enough to start. Dive into that inspiration folder, and then you start stealing. You go into your inspiration and you can steal one thing from every project, usually, okay? You can steal the layout, or the color palette, or the fonts, or a single element, but you cannot steal all of them. And in fact, elements has an asterisk on it. It's better to find a similar element on a design like an asset library than to actually take something that someone hand designed. Don't do that, but take inspiration from that. But you can pick a layout, pick any website, pick a layout. If you change the color, the font, and the content, and then your content doesn't kind of work, and then it sort of reshapes the thing, and you're like, oh, this is kind of bigger. By the time you're done, it's not the same website. Just keep iterating on it until it's something unique. Austin Kleon has this great book, Austin Kleon. It's called Steal Like an Artist, and he shows you the difference between good theft and bad theft. Good theft honors the source material. It's a study, it's not a skim. You steal from many places, spread it around instead of stealing from one place. David Bowie's been quoted as saying, the only art I'll ever study is stuff that I can steal from. And so when you're taking something, quote, stolen, when you bring your own personality and interest to that design, it changes it. It changes it fundamentally. I'm really into 80s and 90s stuff. I like Willy Wonka. I like Cool Runnings. I have all these things that I like. And when I put them in my site and then I change the color, it comes, at the end, it comes out with something original. Because it's the final composition is the thing that matters. It's not cheating until it's done, until it's released with your name on it. And if you're still stuck for ideas, make garbage. This is the best trick. If you're staring at that screen, you're like, man, I thought steps 1 and 2 would get me somewhere, and now I'm looking at this blank slate and I can't do anything. Make the worst possible version of the thing that you're thinking of making. Like, do red on green and blue and make it terrible. And then all you gotta do is like, well, I can fix that one thing and I can fix that one thing, and it gets a lot better. From there, you iterate. This is how I iterate. Whenever I get stuck and I'm like, I don't know if I like it, I duplicate the artboard and I just try something else and I keep going. So my sketch files are like really long. They just head all the way over to the right, and by the end, they just keep getting taller and taller and taller, and then that last version is usually the thing that I launch. I don't know if you believe this premise. If you think that is too simple, that I should have showed you like how to move elements around on a page, I'm sorry, but this is, the people who have taken my design course said this is the most valuable information that they've been able to take from the course, most of them, but you don't have to take my word for it. Let's look at Willy Wonka real quick. I have a few seconds. We'll go through this real quick, I promise. What did Willy Wonka do? Willy Wonka went offline. He closed that factory. Nobody knew what he was doing in there. He gathered from around the world. He went to Loompa Land, by the way, and he collected a bunch of friends and some crazy ingredients. He experimented endlessly. He made lots of different things maybe he never shipped. He just sent like the same 4 candy bars around the world, and he had this like in his factory that was like all for himself. He created stuff just for himself, like this ridiculous vehicle that made everyone else covered in foam. Actually, I think he was covered in foam too. He let his imagination run wild. He showed his works in progress. And at the end, he didn't care what people thought of him. He shared it with the world. And then guided Charlie towards a mutually beneficial goal. That kid got a free candy or chocolate shop. It's pretty awesome. I submit that the world needs more Willy Wonkas, needs more originality, people willing to take some risks, put yourself out there, do something that may be bad, get some feedback, and iterate on it. If you want to take this a little bit further, you can check out my course, Radical Design. I go into a lot of depth. It's 7.5 hours of content. It's really goofy. It's a lot of fun. And today only, you can use the code Wonka to get 50% off if you want. After today, Laracon 2024, that's going to be 25% for a while. RadicalDesignCourse.com. And yeah, there you go. Was that better than the Glasgow Wonka experience? A little bit? Okay.
This was incredible. I remember seeing this. Well done. Good job. Question, have you seen the Gene Wilder documentary yet?
No, but I while doing this, I saw that there was one. I'm like, I don't have time, but I want to.
Very good. This will surprise everyone. I cried through it. That's very shocking.
I'll be
question about radical design.
Yes.
Seems awesome to go wild when you're doing your own thing. How do you constrain this for client work?
It's almost like someone fed you that answer.
That was the question. Yeah, you have to do the answer.
The question, yes. That is a good question. The way to do that, honestly, get to know your client. Get to know who you're doing design work for. If you end up doing design work for somebody as paid work, get into their mind, figure out what they like, understand their goals, the who, the what, and the why. If you do that, just do your best to channel that energy. And like the things that, I mean, you can follow all the same steps, like steel and a layout and a font and whatever. And then the things that change it are the things that they care about. Find ways to incorporate those items into the design.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen,
Easy.
Willy Wonka.
Easy.